Welcome to Touching Lives, Changing Nations. I'm Miles Eversley, thanks for joining us. In our first episode, Shelton Perkins and Adrian Agard took us back to their early experiences of gospel concerts and associated events in Barbados. Well, they set the scene for what we know today as Gospel Fest. As you are aware, Gospel Fest is really a number of events, and Ultimate Gospel is one of those well-anticipated events.
From the Sir Garfield Sobers Complex, Wilde, Barbados, CBC Television presents Gospel Fest in '95, an exhilarating gospel experience.
Y'all know this song. Whoa, some glad morning, come on, when this life is over. To a place where joy should never end. Come on, y'all know it, everybody.
Ultimate Gospel is maybe the remaining legacy of what was the first festival. Because you can see we changed so much from just being at the gymnasium for Friday, Saturday and Sundays.
Gives us the feel of what we had years ago in terms of gospel concerts, yeah? Years ago, years back in the 90s, every Saturday you can almost guarantee that there'll be a gospel concert happening. And you'll find people flocking to the Nazarene Tabernacle, yeah? New Testament Church of God, the Steel Shed. The Steel Shed was a very popular place every single Saturday. And people just come out just to worship, right? I don't know if that was an outlet, I don't know what, but it was packed. It was packed. You couldn't have, I remember the days maybe had Grace Trailers down at the Nazarene Tabernacle. And groups like the Emmanuel 4, Gratitude. I was a part of quite a few of those groups. Gratitude, then I used to direct another group called the Miraclettes. There was the New Testament Chorale, even the George Street Auditorium. That was a popular place to have like choir festivals. So I think the Ultimate Gospel itself brings together that event where people look forward to come out to hear different people, local and internationally.
I give to Jesus everything. Now I gladly own him as my king. Now my raptured soul can boldly sing, sing, sing. Lift your voice and mercy there was great and grace was free. Pardon there was multiplied. Light to me, there my burdens over, liberty at Calvary.
Usually we are bringing one of the top acts out of North America. One of the exciting things for me in the last couple of years is when we had Alvin Slaughter, who I term a friend of the festival. He's been here maybe more than any other artist. But when we had him work with the choir for a production which was carried live on God TV.
Everything had to be scripted and on time from seven, and that's probably the first time I see things from TV production, right? These men, we had a whole production team who came in from overseas, God TV, and they set up everything, production room and everything. And I watched it and I said, oh my God, I gotta put together this thing. And we planned it, we timed it, we did a dress rehearsal, and we ran it from 7 to 10. So I knew you have to be very meticulous about what you put in this thing, right? One of the things that our producer always says to me, Lester, you're cooking a pot, right? If you want the pot to taste good, you gotta monitor the ingredients to put in, right? And I always keep that in the bottom of the mind. So when we were doing that production, I was very cognizant of who, what, how much time, all that things had to put in that to me. So I'm very, very proud of that production. And that evening we featured Alvin Slaughter, who was the headliner for that evening. But the first half of the program was all Barbadian artists. It was Nisha Woods, it was John Yard, it was Alison Norville Ford, it was Trinity Clark, it was the guys from the 7 Days Adventist. But a beautiful production. That has always stuck with me, that particular production.
The key things about that is the involvement of the Barbados Gospel Fest Mass Choir. choir was first directed by a gentleman who went on to be the headmaster at St. Michael's School, Shelton Perkins.
I came up in church, so and I was probably singing from age 3. I think they told me that I sang at children's party. You know, they used to have children's party at Rediffusion. And I sang at age 3 or 4. I sang the song The Great Pretender. And I always was singing, you know, in school, choir, everything. And I continued singing in church. I remember then I formed a small group, a choral, when we were teenagers. Because in those days you had the adult choir, as they called it, in the church. So you never saw any young people in that choir, right? So we then formed our own small group. And it started like that. And then by process of not necessarily elimination, but continuation and succession, I became the director of the River Road Choir, right? Which became then a choir of young and old, right? And that choir did well, you know, as far as the gospel is concerned. And I started to get attracted to American black gospel music, right? My first, I remember hearing a song by James Cleveland, like, I stood up on the banks of Jordan to see those ships, and the beat and so just appealed to me. So I got that interest then, and I started then following that kind of music, which happens to be my favorite, soul type music. And from there, you know, I continued, worked with the River Road Choir, and then the whole Gospel Fest thing came up, right? And I was invited to be on the original committee when it was initiated. And out of that we started the Mass Choir, the Gospel Festival. It was called the Barbados Mass Choir then. And it was from all the churches, right? We sent to all the churches, and people came. And that's how the choir was formed. And it was formed for the first Gospel Fest that they had, right? So the choir pushed past 100. 1 year, Bobby Jones said he wanted 300 in the choir. And we did have almost that. I believe we went for, that was why I remember they were in the gymnasium, and they were up high up on one of the sections, right? And I believe they had almost the 300. And that was the year when they had a lot of the US artists come down, Kirk Franklin, Darrell Coley, Timothy Wright. I can't remember all of them, but that was a whole heap of them came that year. So the choir was used, you know, fairly extensively to support those artists that particular year. The first thing you had to do, obviously, was bring people together who had never sung together before, and who had, because we had people from the Catholic Church, you know, the Anglican, every denomination we had people from. It was predominantly Pentecostal people, but we had people from all denominations. So it was not easy trying to bring them together then and get a song that I would want to hear, all right? But the interest was there, the passion, they had the passion, desire to do it and, you know, get involved, and so, and it was hard work. I will tell you that it was hard work. But and then to get the rehearsals going, we were all over the place rehearsing. We would rehearse at the Halls Road Nazarene. We would rehearse in Queen's Park. We would rehearse at New Testament, just to get it done, you know. And rehearsals were usually on an evening, like 5 o'clock in the evening, when people came straight from work, and so. The main problem was that we never had a lot of time, because we would always get the songs relatively late. So you would have, say, a couple of weeks to try to learn. I mean, they weren't extensively difficult, but of course you needed time to learn them well and get the parts done. So you had to really work against the clock. So you had to make sure that, you were ready when they came, because usually when they got them, obviously they couldn't come 2 weeks before. They would come the same week of Gospel Fest. The Ultimate Gospel would be the Saturday, and they would come in, say, like the Thursday. So you would have wall rehearsal with them, right? I remember once we had to, I think it was Kurt Franklin who wasn't happy with the song that he was doing with the choir, because the song had all these key changes. It was so high that our sopranos had some difficulty getting up there. So there was another group that was there that had come from the US, I believe, a smaller group, and he used them as the backing for that particular song, right? Rather than the choir, because that was a little rough for them to handle. But you had the goal in mind, which was to make sure you produce something of quality and of excellence. And I think we did a pretty reasonable job in getting that done. One Gospel Fest, we supported Joseph Niles.
Sing it one more time. Walking up the King's Highway. Walking up the King's Highway. Walking up the King's Highway. It's a highway to heaven. None can walk up there, but the pure in heart. It's a highway to heaven. The Lord, I'm walking up the King's Highway. Walking up the King's Highway. Oh yes. Walking up the King's Highway. Come on. Walking up the King's Highway.
Walking up the King's Highway. That was good too, and it was good because the late Joe, he always felt that we didn't do enough of that kind of music as choirs and so on. We were doing the American stuff. So I believe to bring the two of those together, for him, I guess that was a joy. In fact, he said it was the only time he'd sung backed by a full mass choir, right? The only time he's done it. And it's something that we really enjoyed and won't forget. And because it's recorded, you hear it every now and then, and you say, well, yeah.
This points to the power of the audiovisual heritage, the importance of preservation, and the inherent value of our archives. We'll hear more of the late Joseph Niles in the next program. Shelton now speaks of his inspiration to take on the role of director of the Mass Choir.
I liked the idea of trying to spread the Barbados gospel and get other people to be aware of what happened in Barbados, because obviously if it was shown on the Bobby Jones Gospel Show, it meant that the exposure was big. So not only for the choir, but for the whole concept of Gospel Fest. I thought it was a good idea. And I was younger then, of course, and vibrant and able, and I always had a passion for choir directing and choir singing, and so I was into it morning, noon, and night. Sometimes 3 rehearsals in one day. So, the passion was there, and the energy was there too. That was my thing, outside of teaching and working in school. That was my thing. So I was into it, with all my energy and all my passion. Then I see people who have come through, that kind of training and discipline, and now they're singers, soloists in their own right, and recording music, and so that's the thing that makes me happy and feel well. At least I did something. We were very big on discipline. I mean, any choir that you're in, if there's not a lot of discipline there, you're not going to get through it much. So we were very strong on discipline. Even the small soul children that we had as a choir, they're big people now in their 30s, and they would tell you, that discipline stayed with them. Right, you couldn't come in and do as you like, walk in when you like, and things like that. You had to get permission to come in late. Once you come in late, you gotta wait till we bring you in. And we try to get them to understand that this is serious business. It can't just be anyhow. All right. So I I see it now manifested in people, individual people, and it makes me feel, well, at least, you know, something was left there. And there are people now who are directing their own choirs and so, and that really makes me feel, well, I did something that could help people in the long run.
As an educator and disciplinarian, we expected nothing less from you, Mr. Perkins. More importantly, that legacy of discipline lives on.
The work of running a school, and I was studying to the year that I decided I couldn't handle it anymore. I was studying as well, and it was a bit too much, and that's when I decided to take a break. It was supposed to be temporary, but then it became, I mean, I was quite happy that somebody was doing a good job, so, you know, no problem. But then the work, I guess, the secular work still became more intense because I went from being deputy principal to principal, so it was difficult to then continue to do that. And that is how, you know, the succession happened.
Come on, put your hands together. On fire. On fire. Come on, put your hands together. On fire. I was in a world of sin. Only Jesus took me in. I was full of misery and strife. Only God could bring me out. Ever since that day, my heart has been rearranged. There's such a burning I cannot explain. My soul's on fire. On fire. My soul's on.
The present director was there from the beginning, and if you look at pictures, so he'd be up front singing. He was my assistant, but he was there from the beginning, Lester Welch, and I mean, credit to him to be still with it, you know, and keeping it going. And he really has to be credited for carrying it all those years.
I started as a young man, a young singer, actually, who just loved singing. And I started in the mass choir, just singing tenor and enjoying what I love to do, which was singing at that point. That has evolved over the years. One of the things I aspire to be is directing a mass choir. So I was just in the choir hoping one day that I'll have the opportunity to direct a choir. Little did I know that I had the opportunity. The director then, Shelton Perkins, gave me the opportunity to direct the choir, and that's when things began to evolve a little bit differently, not knowing that I would have been the person who had to take it to the next level. So when he resigned, when he gave up the post as choir director, then I had to fall into place to be the director. That was a great responsibility, not one that I was willing to do it readily, but I took it up. And along with that came the responsibility of being on the Gospel Fest committee, which involved me helping to plan in the area of music and stuff like that. The choir is more than just a choir. The choir is a collection of people from different churches. That's what I love about it. It's a collection of people from all churches in Barbados who come together just to sing and worship God. We've had some beautiful experiences together, and it's a combination of about at least 100 people. We have people within the choir who are mothers and daughters, fathers and sons. One of our oldest members, when she left the choir, she was actually about 17 years old. And we've still got people in the choir who were there from the inception. I'm one of those people.
For a long time, it was the same core of people for probably about the first 10 years or so. But then, you know, as people progressed in different areas, they moved, migrated, and so on. So you may still see a few people from that first choir, right? But there would have been a lot of changes with personnel because, you know, people move into different areas, right? I mean, people like Maya Daniel they were in the choir from those initial days. You know, Paula Hines was in it from then. Larry Nurse, who's now overseas. Those are people who were in those initial stages, right? James Leacock sang with us at some point as well, right? So you know, people were keen to come and sing in the choir. You know, it didn't matter that they were in another group or whatever, but they were keen to come and sing. And we had Andre Daniel from Early. He was the keyboardist from Early, and he stayed with it for a long time. You know, before Neil Critchlow, who now I believe he's still there, he was in from the outset as well. And I believe he helps now with the directing. The late Alicia Lynch, she was in from Early. So there were good, strong singers who were very much a part of it.
It's made out of younger people now because most of the older folks have passed, left the choir. So we have a younger group. That means they have to get a younger director. That means that I will soon be exiting, I think, if they let me go. But we still have some people who are very excited about what they're doing, excited about singing. And trust me, they've been calling to see where we will be getting back together again. But I look forward to the Mass Choir because not only of this singer, but because of the kind of friendships they have within the choir itself. We just don't only sing. We come together, we share our experiences, we try to live like a family, we pray together, we sing together. And for me as a director, it's just not me directing the choir. I am able, with the help of the Lord, to help people with daily stuff that they're going through. We share what we're going through, their hurts, their joys, and whatever. And I always say to the committee that sometimes we go to rehearsal, we don't even rehearse because people are going through so many different things, and when we begin to share, we're able to minister and help people going through what they're going through. You know, so the choir have evolved over the years because we've seen children who are children of people who were originally in Mass Choir. We have seen aunties and uncles, and it's a beautiful place to be, the Barbados Mass Choir.
I remember we were supporting a chap. He helped us on the album we did called Coming of Age, and he's coming out of the United States and he's coming here, he and his group, to do this recording with us. And I see this happen ever so often. They come into the room for the first time and they're coming with a mindset that maybe coming to teach and coming to explain stuff. And when the choir starts and Lester goes through the routine, they sit back and go like, wow. And I've seen it happen over and over again, that folk that we are providing that kind of support for come and recognize that these people are ready for what they're supposed to be doing. So it is the case with the last presentation we did with Alvin Slaughter. Excellent stuff. The musicianship. Again, what we've seen over the years is that the musicianship in the Christian community and on the Gospel Fest stage among our local musicians is just tremendous.
And that is part of the legacy of discipline spoken of earlier by Shelton Perkins. Now, just the mention of her name and Barbadians are enthralled. Sister Margarita Marshall was honored on the 27th of April 2023 by Barbados Gospel Fest.
Walk holy, walk holy, walk holy, God is holy, oh Zion's children, oh please walk holy. Oh, that, wheresoever I go, I let everybody know where I come from and what I do.
You know, we call her the Queen, right? With good reason, because there's nobody, no female who transcends gospel music like Sister Marshall. She's a dear lady, you know, and I think she deserves the honor. Her voice is unique. You know, that soprano, you don't usually get people singing at that pitch or range as a lead singer, right? So her voice is unique, different, and to maintain it over the years. I know she started out, you know, as a background vocalist with the same Joseph Niles, But then obviously, because of her strength, the strength of her voice, and so she became a soloist in her own right, and she can wake up the dead. I mean, everywhere, every concert she went to, Sister Marsha's gonna get things going or whatever, But she can start with a nice slow song, but then if she's finished, she's gonna have the place rocking. That was Sister Marsha.
Marching on to the life of God. Marching on, we are marching on. On the path that the Master trod. Marching, marching on. A robe of white, a crown of gold, a harp, a home, a mansion fair, a victor's band, for joy untold. Are mine when I get there. Thank for the robe of white, a crown of gold, a harp.
She really deserves the honor that she is getting. She really deserves it, and I tip my hat to her. I'm pleased that Gospel Fest Committee has seen it fit to honor her in this way, and give her those flowers while she can still smell them.
I thank God, and I am thankful to Gospel Fest. I am thankful, and I am glad for the time when they call on me to sing.
Sing on, Sister Marshall, sing on. Touching lives, changing nations. The series continues next week at the same time.